Okay, so we're going to review for your test. You're going to have a slope test on Friday. All right. The first few questions you're going to see is going to be asking you what is the slope of an equation, and if y is by itself, like how it is here, you can automatically tell that your slope is whatever is attached to x. So this is my slope, -6 is my slope, don't forget the sign, +4 is my slope. And even if it looks a little funny, if it's on y is on the opposite side, as long as it is by itself, the number attached to x is your slope. So here's 2, here's 5, -6, and +4. You try these. Now, the number attached to x is 8, so my slope is 8, and the number attached to x is -2. My slope is -2. Okay? Here's some other questions that you're going to see. It says, what is the equation of a line with a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 8? The equation is always, oops, don't want to do that, is always y equals mx plus or minus b. M is your slope, so in this case my slope is 3. Slope is always attached to x. And it says I have a y-intercept of 8, +8. Okay, the next one. What is the equation of a line with a y-intercept of -9 and a slope of 6? Now this one is saying y-intercept first, but that's okay. So we could write it like this. It has a y-intercept of -9 and a slope of +6. And I got to add my x. Or you could do it this way. Y equals my slope, which is always attached to x, and then your y-intercept. Now you do this bottom one. Okay, this is saying y equals, it has a slope of -8, which is always attached to x, and a y-intercept of +13. Next. Now, you cannot find slope if y is not by itself. If this equation does not say y equals, you cannot automatically say my slope is 9. You cannot say your slope is 3 because it's not in y equals. So you ask yourself, what's on the same side as y? So it's 9x. So it's a positive 9x, so I'm going to subtract 9x here, subtract 9x here. This cancels out. I have to bring down what I have left, and don't forget this negative sign. So that's -y equals 4 minus 9x. Y is still not by itself because we can have that negative sign and we can say there's a 1 right here. It's being multiplied by y, so I have to divide by -1, which cancels that out, and divide each term by -1. To simplify this in your calculator, you would do alpha y equals enter 4 over -1, and you would get y equals -4. And then we would do alpha y equals enter -9 over -1 and get positive 9x. Your slope is 9. Now you try this one. You ask yourself what's on the same side as y. It's this positive 3x, so I'm going to subtract 3x. If this was a negative 3x, I would add. You just do the opposite. So I need to subtract 3x over here. Left with -8y equals 10 minus 3x. I need to divide every term by -8. I get y equals -1 over 8 plus 3 over 8x. And my slope would be positive 3 over 8. Okay, the next thing you're going to see on your test is a question saying what is the slope of a line that passes through the points? So when you're given 2 points, you have to do this right here. Okay, you have to label your x, your y, your x, and your y. This is the first set of points, so this is your x1 and your y1. This is your second set of points, so this is your x2, y2. Okay, this is given to you right now, but it's not going to be given to you on your test, so you have to remember it. Now I need to set it up in the formula. So it says y2, which is 20, minus y1, which is -8, over x2, -11, minus x1, which is 9. To type this in your calculator, you type this whole thing in your calculator by doing alpha y equals enter, type in the whole numerator, then press the down arrow and type in the whole denominator. And when we type that in our calculator, our slope is -7/5. Now go ahead and try the next one and find out what your slope is. Remember, the first step is to always label your x's and your y's, x's and your y's. This is your first set, this is your second set. So it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. When you type that in your calculator by doing alpha y equals enter, you get your slope to be -73/25. And that's your slope. Okay. The next one is y'all's favorites, which is graphs. You might be asked to find the slope, the y-intercept, the equation, is it positive or negative? So let's just go ahead and do the whole equation for this one. Now we know the equation is y equals mx plus or minus b. Now the first thing I want to find out is what is my slope? And is this positive or negative? If I start from the left and I go right, I went up, so I know my slope is positive. Okay, then you put 2 points on the graph, so it crosses through evenly here, and it crosses through evenly here. Do your rise over your run, so you rise 1, and you go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is positive 1/4, and my y-intercept is wherever it crosses through the y-axis, and in this case it's at +2. So my equation would be y equals 1/4 x plus 2. Now you guys go ahead and try and figure out what the equation is for this one. Okay, I know the equation is y equals mx plus or minus b. To find my m, if I start from the left of this and I go to the right, I'm going down. So I know my slope is negative. Okay, and if I put 2 points on there, so I can put one, let's put it right here and here. So I rise 1, 2, and I go over 1, 2. 2/2. That will reduce down to -1. I would just do alpha y equals enter, -2/2, and I get -1. Now I need to find my y-intercept. My y-intercept is where it intercepts the y-axis, and in this case it's also at +2. So my equation would be y equals -1x plus 2. Okay. For these problems right here, oh, by the way, you're going to be asked to find the slope. I'm surprised that's not on here. The slope, the equation of a graph, and sometimes it's not in y equals, and you have to put it in y equals yourself. For these questions, it's asking what is the equation? What is the equation? When your answer choices are in y equals, go to y equals. You're going to type in your answer choice. I'm abbreviating. You have to see if it goes through these points. So we're going to press second, graph, and then you have to check points. Check points. Okay? So alpha y equals enter, x plus 10, press second graph, see if it goes through those points. I think this answer is F. So you guys go ahead and do these next two. And let me show you really quick what else. See, like for this one, it says which graph best represents this equation. You have to get y by itself, okay? Once you get y by itself, you can either go to y equals and type it in and match the picture, or find your slope and your y-intercept and do it by hand. You will see this on your test, this exact question. Solve for y, get y by itself, then find which graph. You can do this in your calculator by going to y equals and matching the picture of your graph.